Hi, this is Lisa Giddings, and I would like to talk to you today about the Christian Theoretical Foundation and the Advanced Practice Nurse. So the question is, why care? Colossians 3, 1 through 17 tells us that Christians are set apart and expected to be in control of our earthly nature, which is not necessarily to care, but to do what we believe will make us happy. And those things often equate with idolatry, greed, impurity, lust, and evil desires. Our job is to be a living example of God's genuine love and care, which He has shown to us. As advanced practice nurses, we want to heal the sick whenever possible and bring comfort when it's not possible. That is our Christ-like example to share through caring. The Lord has created us to all be different, but commands us to love one another as He has also loved us. We must provide support and care that meets the needs of the patient. We must understand their needs within the framework of their culture, whether it be a religious culture, ethnic culture, culture of choice, or a culture of homelessness or addiction. Whatever their situation is, we must view their needs through their eyes. An outward display of inward devotion to a relationship with another. Our effort to connect and show concern, even though the physical body may be beyond repair, nourishes the souls of others and allows us an opportunity to share God's love through humility and our shared likeness. We are taught that peace and harmony are created through genuine relationship with God, self, others, and nature. This is the true essence of health and well-being. Jesus led by example, but more importantly, He asked that we do as He did, so that others might know Him fully. The seen environment encompasses all that can be felt through our senses. The environment not seen involves spiritual or environments that do not have consistent evidence of its existence, but acknowledged by mental awareness. God resides in the unseen environment and communicates with us through His Word, and sometimes through thoughts and feelings. It is His communication to Christians that makes us a good fit for healthcare and caring for others. Unfortunately, the unseen world also contains Satan and all of his influences. While he was once a powerful angel in heaven, his sin cost him his place with the Lord. Now he lives among us in the unseen environment and spreads deception to the world in the form of greed, lust, slothfulness, lack of hospitality, all of which impede spiritual health and wellness. Christ uses us as salt and light to the world. Salt to slow down the process of rotting, and light reveals problem areas and affects change. Health has been defined in different ways, such as a continuum, an absence of illness or disease, and it depends on the context or the environment. Shalom in the Hebrew language means peace. Peace defined in its simplest terms is unity or balance. In healthcare, many theorists consider health a balance of the systems or between external and internal factors. That would be Newman. Conserving energies that create reserve or balance of need is Levine. And simply a relationship with the environment and its proper maintenance or balance would be Nightingale. Essentially, all nurse theorists have a common thread of balance, creating peace or shalom. Suffering is not always caused by sickness or poor health. It is often caused by unpleasantness or a sense of impending doom, demise, and level of risk. This can be seen as a state of imbalance or a lack of unity. Wolterstorff describes shalom as the human being dwelling at peace in all his or her relationships with God, with self, with fellows, and with nature. This can be generalized from the health of the individual to mean the health from a broader perspective, encompassing an organization, a community, and the world. The world needs health and healing for many reasons. The most significant reason is the departure or absence of the Lord from the lives and circumstances of people. Without Him, it's impossible to achieve unity, structure, and balance that provides health and wellness. 2 Peter chapter 3 refers to Christians' lack of patience, which can incite behavior that causes imbalance. It's so easy to get intertwined with the non-believers or those that cast doubt. This can lead Christians to despair or imbalance. In verse 17, Christians are told to take care that you are not carried away with the error of lawless people and lose your own stability. For shalom is found in balance. What does it mean to care as a Christian nurse? Over centuries, there has been a steady shift from the role of nursing. It's moved from one of mothering and providing basic needs of the sick and infirm, such as feeding, cleaning, and ironing, to one of social policy statement that speaks of illness as it relates to scientific state only. Christian nursing is provision of compassionate care. It is a reflection of God's grace towards us all. Christian nursing strives to provide comfort and alleviate suffering through shalom while bringing peace in suffering and death for anyone in need. Several characteristics of Christian nursing stand out in the scriptures. Nursing is a response to God's grace that flows from a dynamic personal relationship with God. It's a ministry of the church and functions in the context of the body of Christ. It recognizes the role of sin in the world, and it seeks to restore justice and righteousness. It views the person as created in the image of God. It works toward the goal of shalom as ultimate health. It is demonstrated in compassionate care that is characterized by the fruit of the Spirit. These characteristics will help us both define nursing and to shape the future of nursing practice. Why care for the homeless? Christ cared for the homeless. Leviticus 25 tells us, "If your brother becomes poor and cannot maintain himself, you shall support him as though he were a stranger and a sojourner, and he shall live with you. Take no interest from him or profit, but fear your God, that your brother may live beside you." Psalms 82:3 tells us, "Give justice to the weak and maintain the rights of the afflicted and the destitute." Some may question whether or not homelessness qualifies as a cultural entity, yet this is not the question we need to ask ourselves. Homeless people have varying reasons for finding themselves without shelter. We're instructed through the scriptures to care for them by devoting ourselves to a relationship of understanding, concern, and connection. More than 30% of homeless people suffer mental health issues, some of which happen before and some of which happens after becoming homeless. This may be due to fear, shortage of food and clothing, and chronic or sporadic exposure to the elements. Providing shalom and giving of our earthly goods is what the Lord expects from us as Christian nurse practitioners. Proverbs 21:13 says, "Whoever closes his ear to the cry of the poor will himself call out and not be answered." I wanted to share with you an example of Christian caring in a healthcare profession. One day I was going downtown to my eye doctor's appointment, and as I was driving down there, I did see this man, homeless man, with a duct tape jug about 18 inches high, 10 inches wide. He'd fashioned a handle on it made out of duct tape, and he carried it along with him. His hair was matted with dirt and leaves, and he wore glasses frames that were slightly bent and had no lens in them. It gave him kind of a sinister look. He was darting about the street in a way that made me feel fearful and suspicious. As I walked into the doctor's office, I clung to the wall of the building, praying that I would get safely inside before this homeless person could catch up with me. I'd almost made it to the door when I heard a man's feet beside me, and for a brief moment I grabbed my phone ready to dial 911. At that second, he made it around me and threw open the door to my own doctor's office. He held the door for me and then followed me in. He was so anxious I was a little bit afraid to be in the same room with him. But just then, the woman behind the desk greeted him like her best friend, gave him a big hug, and said, "Oh, Bob, wait right here. I know Dr. Koza can't wait to see you." He responded by telling her that he had remembered that it was the doctor's birthday and he had a gift for him. I thought, how weird, here's this man clearly with nothing. Why is he bringing a gift for my eye doctor? Dr. Koza entered the room and lit up the room with a booming welcome and another hug for Bob. Bob then carefully pulled out a wrinkled piece of paper from his pants pocket. From where I was standing, I could see that there were a few childlike scribbles and drawings, but Bob was very excited to share this with the doctor, and he put his duct tape jug on the floor and at that point used it for a stool. As he sat on his stool with a big smile, he listened intently as Dr. Koza read the letter out loud. He said, "Bob, I can see you're wishing me a happy birthday, and you hope that I have a great time with my family, and that all good things come my way. And I have to tell you, that's the best birthday present I've ever gotten." As Bob sat there beaming, he told Bob that he had word that his new glasses would be in later in the afternoon. I was puzzled. How could he afford these glasses? and after Bob had gone and the room returned to a typical workplace, I asked the receptionist to tell me the story. She said that Dr. Koza had begun a ministry for the downtown homeless people when he opened his practices 30 years prior. He didn't announce it, as that was not the goal, but the doctor, accompanied by Catholic Charities, Hope House, and a few eyewear companies, pulled together to pay for hardware, and the doctor sees them at no cost. Bob, however, was Dr. Koza's favorite. He actually found Bob on the street one day, much like I did. Bob was on the street trying to hand every person he saw a bunch of flowers that had clearly been thrown out by someone else and landed in a dumpster. A stranger skirted Bob and crossed the street to get away from him. Bob was undeterred. The only thing he wanted was to connect and have a positive impact on someone's day. So the doctor crossed the street and realized that he had no lenses in his frames. He had frames with no lenses. Bob could barely see that Dr. Koza was a man. But Dr. Koza accepted the flowers and he fussed over them, and he took Bob inside of his office. He found a vase and carefully put them in water. Then he asked Bob if he would like an exam. Bob laughed and told him that he had no money and never had lenses in his frame before. Dr. Koza has now been taking care of Bob and his reading glasses for the last 10 years. About 2 to 3 times a year, Bob loses his glasses or someone breaks them and they need repairs. This particular time, another homeless man at a shelter that Bob stayed at one night had broken them by hitting Bob because Bob had gotten into the wrong bed by mistake. If we all did this much, the world would be a much better place. As nurse practitioners, we'll always be asked to give, and we must find a way to give generously as the Lord has provided for us.